What is going on, guys? It is DigiWatch TCG coming to you with another deck profile. Now today we're going to be going over the Ulforceveedramon deck for the BT12 format, and I can say this deck is very powerful, very speedy, very strong, and definitely should not be overlooked as far as a meta contender. I've done some testing at locals as well as Discord and some smaller tournaments, and I feel like this deck does have the potential to do great things. However, I would say that I still have not utilized most of this deck in regional competition or higher level competition, so definitely take that as a word of caution to try this at locals and see how consistent it is, especially if you are with a competitive group. So with that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let's get into the deck. So starting things off with the eggs, we are running 4 copies of Lanamon. I still say that this card is probably one of the best eggs that you can run in a deck. Once per turn when attacking, if you have a blue tamer in play, you draw 1. This card is just, it gets your engine started and you just keep going, and I just think that this is the best egg. I don't think I would run any other egg over this. Going into our rookies, though, we are running 4 copies of BT11 Vmon. Now, this card here is just really good in terms of searcher or an extender. If it's an extender, usually you want it in your raising area for your big stack that you're going to be doing your OTK with. But if you are missing pieces earlier on, you hard play this, and you, when on play, you look at the top 3, get an Veedramon in name and a blue tamer to your hand. The rest go to the bottom as an inherited. If you play a blue tamer, you gain a memory. So when you are playing your blue tamers via your Ulforce effect in your arenas, you will want this there so that you can gain your memory, keep it your turn, and keep your plays, extend your plays. So 4 copies of that Vmon, absolutely necessary in my opinion of the deck. Then we're going on to some other choices, and again, these ratios can be played around with. It's just what I felt has worked best with this deck so far, and let me just move that die out of the way. But yeah, Vmon here is from EX1. When one of your Digimon unsuspends, when this Digimon unsuspends, you gain a memory. So when you get to your Ulforceveedramon, that is usually when you unsuspend, and you'll gain a memory from that. It's kind of doing the same thing that your Vmon from BT11 is supposed to be doing, just giving you that extra memory if you have this in your stack. If you did open with like that Vmon from BT11 and the EX1 Vmon, I'd probably put the EX1 Vmon in my raising and then hard play and get my pieces that I need with the Vmon that gives you a memory. So that is that. Now come some of the choices that I will say are probably much the flexible part of the rookie count. You can obviously up the count of your Vmon from EX1, but I really like the way I've been running this deck. So we're running 2 copies of Vmon from the starter deck. This card is really good in multiple ways. Early game, it gives you extra draws for its when attacking effect. If you attack, you have 7 or less cards in your hand. You can draw 1 card, and it's not a once per turn. So if you do have less than 7 multiple times, you will be able to draw, especially when you get to your Ulforceveedramon plays, you'll be able to draw multiple times, especially when you're playing tamers from your hand. And also late game, if you are missing pieces or your opponent just went a little too fast and got to your level 6 before you, you can activate this effect by paying 4. You can warp Digivolve into your Ulforceveedramon for just 4. So both ways you do get some really good effects out of the way, and I do think that this card is a good card. You can up the amount though if you like by cutting some of the next cards, but I do think these cards are personally necessary for the deck to work really well and stop your opponent from blocking you. And that is 2 copies. Try to get a center. There we go. 2 copies of Jellymon. The reason why I run this card is, first, it's mainly for its inherited, so I'll usually want this in my raising stack rather than on the field. And Jellymon is once per turn. If you play a blue tamer, you draw 1. Again, not the real reason we're using it, but the inherited is once per turn. When effect adds a card to your hand, you can return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to the owner's hand. What's really good about this is that it gets rid of memory floodgates, which this deck needs a lot of memory sometimes to keep it your turn and extend your plays. So having this as part of your stack is really good at bouncing back those level 3s. And Wanyamon on attack can also just give you that extra draw, and because you're adding a card via an effect, you can activate the Jellymon effect to bounce a level 3. It also can get rid of just a problematic card. Maybe they have an extra rookie out there to try to put a game on you or something like that. So I think that 2 of is fine. You can go up to 3. If you really want to, you can cut the next card I'm going to show you, which is Sayakamon. So Sayakamon here is just, it's a good floodgate, because right now there's a lot of decks in the meta that have the ability of reducing Digivolution costs. The Hunters decks, the War Greymon decks, those guys have the ability of just being able to go for a little cheaper into their boss monsters, and Sayakamon says, no, you can't do that anymore. Even if you utilize your Tamers, this still has the ability of just stopping your opponent from reducing the memory cost, reducing the Digivolution cost. So that is the final card of the rookies. I believe my count came out to 4, 3, 2, 1. So I think it's 12 total. Again, you can mess around with the ratios as you like. If you don't really agree with something, feel free to have your own take on it. So running 4 copies of Veedramon to start off our champion lineup. I think that the Digimon is really good in this deck too. Again, you don't really utilize its main effect of your turn once per turn. If you play Blue Tamer, you draw 1. You could, if it's another body out there, your opponent's running a slow deck, so you maybe have multiple stacks and you need to get cards, that's fine. But mainly because you utilize it in your raising area, you Digivolve this, and then you gain the activate the effect of once per turn. When you play Blue Tamer, you gain a memory. So another way of just making sure you can keep it your turn. Nothing else really needs to be said about that. Going into our others, these are definitely flexible for how you want to run the deck. 3 copies of Kumamon here. Kumamon is good. It's actually really could be any rookie, and personally I haven't yet tried it, but I might try out the Lanamon, I think it's called, or Lanamon, to be able to put a rookie underneath and give it jamming. So I might try that. But I do think Kumamon is pretty good to still be able to strip a source from the bottom of your opponent's Digimon stack, and it is just Digivolve for 2. And if you're running more of a full-on hybrid package, I definitely would suggest this one. But if you're just doing like kind of a split between this and just having it for the additional way of Digivolving, and I mainly run this card for the fact that if your opponent is able to get rid of your big stack, maybe like a Kitus Breath or something, you can just Digivolve this in off of one of your Tamers and be able to continue your plays, hopefully. So I run 3, and again, the hybrid you choose is really flexible. It's up to you. And then lastly, we are running 2 copies of Leomon. We still run a little bit of a Leomon package in this deck, and I do think that 2 copies is fine. Being able to be a blocker and give you memory. It also could just be one of those guys that tries to swing into your opponent's security, and your opponent might just have to block it and just give you the extra memory, or it just makes it really tough. And especially it feels really good when you have a Jerry come out of security and displays from hand. So usually I like to reserve these for those moments and to put an extra Leomon, unless like there's no other card and I'm getting unlucky and not pulling anything. But usually that's never the case. But yeah, 2 copies of Leomon is fine. Going on to our ultimate lineup. That was our champion lineup. So we are running 3 copies of Ulforceveedramon. Some people would say 4 is better. I really think that it's really easy to get these now. So many searchers in your deck, so many ways of just getting it. Sometimes you just need 2 stacks is enough to win you the game. So Ulforceveedramon at 3 is completely fine in my opinion. I don't think that you need to run 4, but of course you could if you really want to. But its main effect is you can spend this Digimon, and if you do, then look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add all Tamers to your hand, the rest go to bottom. As an inherited, when attacking, you can activate one of the effects of your arena. Arena's on play effects, so you can give one of your Veedramon or Vmon's evade blocker. So I do think this is a good card. I just don't really necessarily see the need to have it at more than 3 copies. Going on to our other levels here, we are running 2 copies of Ulforceveedramon. This one has jammings from the starter deck, and then if you have 8 or more cards in your hand as an inherited, you get security +1. I did have this card in my deck prior to BT12 for the matchup against the D-Reaper, because if you do not end up seeing your pieces earlier on, or your Ulforce earlier on, you may end up getting in a situation where they get their I forgot what his name is, but their security, their minus security Digimon on the field if they have 6 or more materials. So I do think this card is necessary, and I do like it. It has jamming too, just a way of suspending it if your opponent doesn't have already a blocker in play. So 2 copies of that is fine. The card that I would definitely recommend maybe figuring out a better ratio for, though, just because I'm still trying to figure it out myself, is Ulforceveedramon 0. This card is just really good in certain situations. I think the biggest problem with Ulforce is that it doesn't have a great way of gaining DP buffs. There's only a few cards that give it this. And Ulforceveedramon, when digivolving, you could trash the top 3 cards of your deck. Then, if you have a Tamer in play, this Digimon gets 3,000 DP. And then, as an inherited, when attacking, you can place up to 3 non-Digi eggs from your trash to the bottom of your deck. And if you do, this Digimon gets 2,000 DP for the turn. And that is not a once per turn. So, every attack you make, it just goes up a little bit more and more. And because it has evade and blocker, or the evade mechanic in it, that whenever it's unsuspended, you'll be able to survive any problematic cards, either whether it's cards that have a higher DP or may have a deletion effect. So I might up this to 2 if I don't see a lot of D-Reapers in the upcoming meta. But the start of the show is coming up right now, and that is 4 copies of Ulforceveedramon, and this card is just super good. It's your win con in the deck. If you don't know what it does, when digivolving, you play a blue tamer from your hand for free, ignoring the without paying the memory cost. And then when you do play a tamer, a blue tamer, you can unsuspend this Digimon. And then when this Digimon comes unsuspended, you can bounce one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 3. But for every blue tamer you have in play, you can increase that level by 1. So if you have 2 other Tamers in play, you can bounce a level 5, for example. And with this card and the arenas that we'll get to in a bit, this is basically giving you your OTK. So we're running that at 4. Not really much to talk about. But the newest addition to our deck is basically the 2 spots that we were missing before, which were the Ulforceveedramon X Antibody. And this card is just really good and really broken. I did not realize how much utility this card actually has until testing it, and it just is bonkers. So when digivolving, when you can unsuspend either this Digimon or one of your blue Tamers, which sometimes is really good because you can have a Tamer like Sora Joe, and you could activate the effect to trash 2, and then since it's not once per turn, you can unsuspend this Digimon and do another trash to your opponent's one of your opponent's Digimon, so it's really good. There are other cards, of course, as well we could talk about, but mainly that. And then all turns once per turn, when this Digimon unsuspends, you can, if it has a blue Tamer or Ulforceveedramon underneath it, you can bounce one of your opponent's lowest level to the owner's hand. By the way, when I said the Tamer, you just have to have the Tamer out, not underneath it. But yeah, it is really good defensively and offensively, and I'll just talk about it toward the end about one of the plays that I feel is pretty impressive with this deck here. So I'll talk about that in a bit. So yeah, let's go on to our other cards. Since we have a few, definitely just not that many options, let's go to that next. 1 Ice Wall, I think, is just necessary in practically every blue tech. And 2 Hammer Sparks here, I think, is good. I don't run Blue Memory Boost because I think it's a little slow, actually, in this deck. Because you have to get it, and then you have to... sometimes if they have a memory blocker or they set one up for the next turn, it just is really bad for you. But if I were, I would probably cut the next 2 cards, which are Ice Statue. And this is your only defensive option, but I really like it because it utilizes really well with a couple of other cards in this deck. It trashes the top 3 cards of your opponent, one of your opponent's Digimon. If you have a blue Tamer in play, you can reduce the cost of this card by 1, so you could technically play it for 5. I think it's just a little bit of a better Cocytus Breath, and then you can bounce one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources to your owner's hand. This is my answer for that the D-Reaper decks or anything that is doesn't utilize a lot of sources. Like cross decks sometimes don't have enough, and you can just do that and bounce one of your opponent's Digimon for 5. Sometimes that's more than enough that you need that you have, but you can take this out, blue memory boost, or fix other pieces in this deck. But I think that I really like having a little bit of defensive options, especially if they get hidden security and they're your opponent wasn't expecting it. And then lastly, we're going to go over the tamers. 4 copies of Rena. Feel like this is like just you can't go less than 4 unless we have something else come out in the future. But Rena here on play, give one of your Vmons or Veedramon block green evade. All turns when one of your Digimon with Veedramon in its name becomes suspended. By suspending this tamer, you can copy the when you can activate that Digimon's when in Digivolving effect. So, for example, with this and Ulforceveedramon, the way you could play this is you would attack with Ulforceveedramon, activate Rena, play a Tamer. Because you played a Tamer on your turn, it unsuspends, making it active with evade and blocker. So you just kind of utilize that, and then when one of your Digimon becomes unsuspended, you gain 1 memory. So this is really good. It's your turn effect though for that last part of it, which I'll talk about toward the end. But going into our other pieces, this is pretty standard. It's really whatever you feel comfortable with in terms of your tamers, but we're running 2 copies of Davis here. It's just a memory card, make sure you can stay at 3 at the very least. It's good for being able to digivolve your hybrids onto, and it gets you a search. So I run 2. I don't think there's really needed to be any more than that. You could run 3 though, by cutting some of the other cards I'll talk about. 2 Jerrys here. Like I said, I'm running the Leomon package, and when this comes out of security, it's good. But also early game, I don't really mind playing this out early because you can play it out early, and every time your opponent attacks, you just get an extra draw off of it, which may end up fixing your hand, getting the pieces you need. So 2 copies of this is completely fine in my opinion. We are running 2 copies of V-Tamer Tai, but I would definitely recommend trying to go to 3 on this. I don't have another one, and I'm not willing to shell out the money from it. But if I was going to regionals and asked a friend, "Hey, can you lend me one of your V-Tamer ties?" I think that would be fine. A 3 is fine, gives you an extra draw, gets you extra DP buffs, which I mentioned was a problem in this deck before. So I think that 2 is fine. But if you don't have the 3rd one, it's fine. But definitely try to get the 3rd one if you are playing the deck. And then lastly, these are again those spots that you could probably just fix a little bit. Sora Joe and Matt and Sora, both of them are utilized just to decide what you want to run, what the meta looks like. This one is if you have 8 or more cards in your hand, you gain a memory. Same thing with your opponent. If your opponent has 8 or more, you gain a memory. And then when one of your Digimon unsuspends, you can bounce one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to your hand. By suspending this Digimon. So you do that, suspend one of your Digimon. Sora Joe is good because it strips sources from your opponent's Digimon, and then you can gain 2 memory if your opponent has a Digimon with no sources on it. But again, these 2 can come out for other pieces if you want to make it more consistent. Throw in another Davis, throw in like another V-Tamer tie. Those would probably be where I make those cuts if I really wanted to, but I do like it for the utility that it gives me, and I'll just show you lastly a little bit of the combo, and then we'll finish up. So I'm not going to go through the whole combo of things in terms of what your stack looks like, but let's assume you have like a stack underneath, like an Ulforceveedramon here, and you played Arena via its effect. What I would say is like you're swinging, you're going to do a check to your opponent's security, you can tap Arena to copy its effect, and then you play maybe another Arena from that here, and then this unsuspends, and you can do another attack. However, let's say maybe your opponent has playing something like a cross deck or something that they're going to get multiple swings off of, and you just want that extra defense to stop them from OTKing, because maybe you can do you can finish them off the next turn. Maybe you have a hybrid in hand, a couple of hybrids in hand. What usually you want to do, and let's say one of these is suspended, is you can digivolve, you can swing in, right, do your second swing, digivolve it into your Ulforceveedramon X Antibody for 1, activate its effect to unsuspend, and then bounce their lowest level to their hand here. Additionally, because you unsuspended, you may be able to gain a memory if you didn't activate that before. and then of course it has block or evade. So the reason why I really like this new strategy is because let's say your opponent promotes out, and then maybe they have 3 Digimon. They swing at the first Digimon, you will suspend to block that effect, and then you can activate that Rena that you didn't use the prior turn to copy the one Digivolving effect to unsuspend itself or one of my tamers. In which case I would probably just do itself, and then its blocker again. Also, because it's unsuspended, the all turns effect will trigger, being able to bounce one of your opponent's Digimon to their back to their hand, and then of course its blocker again, so you can block it for a second time if you were very close to losing. So that would be potentially how you utilize this card defensively, and offensively, of course, you can just kind of do the things that you normally do with Ulforce, and if you had these, you just attack, copy the attack when attacking, unsuspend via its own effects, its Digivolving effect, and then you just do the same thing again with another Rena and unsuspend. And that would be how you kind of utilize this card offensively and defensively. But anyway, that's what I have for you today. What do you guys think of the deck? Are you guys excited? Are you guys going to try it out? Let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay classy.